So now you're finally making some money. You have some really strong positive cash flow, and you have questions in terms of where do you put that money? Do you put it into your bank, your 401k? Well, stick with us as we go over our sequence of savings.
Yeah, this sequence is a breakdown of a step-by-step where we would put money first. We get questions all the time, right? What do I do with my money? How much cash should I have in the bank? Should I contribute to my 401k? Should I pay off my mortgage? So we want to give a simple breakdown of what type of accounts you should be saving in what order. Now, everybody has different accounts, right? Not everybody has a 401k.
Right.
Some people run their own business. Some people are at a startup or a private company. So, of course, there's flexibility in terms of what you might have access to. But this is a good breakdown to start with.
Yeah, this is just real baseline, foundational. But I do think it does apply to just about, maybe 80, 90% of the population.
Yeah.
At least it's a great framework to start to begin with.
Yeah.
So number one, I think we both immediately agree that our number one should be your cash savings.
Absolutely, yeah.
Your emergency fund. And this is really just designed to just have some type of a cushion just in case something happens. And as we all know, something is always bound to happen. Whether you have a car breakdown, you have a flood in your kitchen or bathroom.
All the fun stuff.
All the great stuff in life. And so you always want that buffer there because life is unexpected.
Yeah.
Right?
And everybody's different here. A good rule of thumb, we usually talk about 3 to 6 months of your expenses, right? It might be different if you're single or if you're married, 1 income or 2 incomes. There's some variability there. And plus, every study that's been done, we know people are stressed about money. I mean, people rank this up with death, with snakes, with all these things, right? Is financial anxiety is real. But what's interesting is one correlation they see in every study is having cash savings. Always is correlated with less anxiety. People just feel better when they've got a few months of expenses. So.
Oh yeah. Oh, my wife and I had this talk early on. She is a little bit more on the conservative side, and so we agreed. Mainly, I agreed with her to have about 12 months of savings set aside.
That's a large amount, but if it makes sense for you,
it's peace of mind.
Yeah.
It really it made her feel more comfortable at night. And so I do agree. Like there's the 3 to 6 months is a general rule of thumb, but it does depend upon your own personal risk tolerance, and it also depends upon what your cash flow variability looks like as well.
Oh, yeah. If you're working, we're here in San Diego. If you're down with the Navy or a government job, you might not need as much cash reserves versus if you're about to launch a startup and you're leaving some biotech company, you probably want a large amount of cash reserves. You're going to be burning through money for quite a while. So it might just make you feel better, like you can get your business started in a more appropriate way by just having more cash.
Something a little bit more stable.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay, so once you get your cash flow set up, you've got this bank account, you've got emergency reserves, where do you go next?
So number 2 is going to be high interest debt, and more specifically, credit card debt, but not always credit card debt. So a lot of times people will have maybe $1,000, $2,000, upwards to $10,000, $20,000 worth of credit card debt with 17, 20, 25%.
Huge numbers. You just can't do it. Can't do it.
And in our opinion, that is money left on the table if you do not aggressively pay that down. So you want to get out from underneath the burden of debt because it can be soul crushing and it can really limit you in terms of trying to make any type of other progress financially.
Yeah, and you see it with student loan topic, big topic right now. You see people when they show, hey, I've been paying these for 10 years, but I feel like I've not even made a dent on my actual original loan because this interest keeps compounding over time. And it builds up. So I think, as you said, it's a personal thing. Number 2, though, again, is you're paying off high interest debt for sure. And that number can vary from person to person, right? So that range might be somewhere around like what counts as high interest. It might be somewhere in the 5 to 7% is something that we usually kind of agree upon. It can be different for each person. But if you look at somebody that's in their 20s, that number might be higher, right? That might be, hey, I'm going to invest in the stock market. I have 100% equity investments and I'm okay with 5, 6%. Versus there might be a 60-year-old who has a lot of bonds in their portfolio. It might not make sense to have even 5% debt if half of your investments are in bonds yielding 2%.
All right.
You've got this 3% difference here that you might as well maybe use that and pay off a guaranteed 5% return.
Right. So what we're trying to get at is what is that opportunity cost? Right. So if you have debt that's only, say 6.5%, but your expected returns, because you're young and you're aggressive with your money, is going to be somewhere between 7 and 10%, then perhaps that's not considered a high interest debt. That's more of a low interest debt, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. So, and also another thing I want to point out is whenever you do start to pay off this high interest debt, it is very, very important that you don't just make the minimum payments. Make sure you're actually paying off principal. And I'm surprised at how many people they hear this really bad advice of, hey, whenever you have credit card debt, only pay off the minimum payments. That's terrible advice.
It's true.
Make sure you pay off the principal and get out from under that debt.
Yeah. All right, perfect. So somebody's got cash reserves. Now they've paid
Correct.
off high interest debt. Now I think we go into getting free money from your workplace, right?
Yes.
401k match, 403b match, whatever you might have from your benefit package, take advantage of it. We commonly see 3% matches, 6%. Some big San Diego tech companies and biotech have great flat dollar matches, and we continually see people that do not get the most out of their benefits, right?
Right.
I mean, it's common. It's not like when you are on board with a company, HR doesn't sit down and have a personal call with you and say, hey, here's our benefits.
No.
Here's how you can get the most money from the setup. So just make sure that you're getting all the free money you can from your workplace.
Yeah. I mean, more oftentimes than not, people are even unaware that benefit's even there for them to participate in.
Yeah, absolutely.
So take a look, call up HR if you need to, read your employee handbook. And if there is money on the table, this should be step number 3. Make those contributions to at least get that match and that free money into your tax-deferred account.
Yeah. Then I think 4, where we're going, this is where a lot of flexibility can happen depending on your access to these types of accounts.
Yes.
But I think an HSA, HSA in my mind is the ultimate account.
Yeah. Yeah. There's no better vehicle or investment type out there where you can get the triple tax benefit.
Yeah.
Right. You get the tax deferred whenever you put money into it. It gets to grow tax free, much like a Roth does. And if you take it out for qualified expenses, it can be tax free
Withdrawals.
Yeah. Thank you.
Take it out. You're good to go. And the thing is, too, I think a lot of people confuse an HSA with an FSA, and they think it's a use it or lose it. Oh, I think I have an HSA, but I don't want to put money in because if I don't have an expense, I just waste it. And that's not the case. HSAs stay with you. And oftentimes as well, there's another benefit. If it's with your employer, you get to skip FICA tax as well. So there's 4 tax benefits. There's no other account like it. And as well, oftentimes employers make contributions or matches. So this is more free money. And another big perk HSAs is if it's with your workplace, it's just automation. There's some big perk to just having stuff deducted from your paycheck. We see this time and time again. People continually say, I feel like I'm making good money and I'm going through my career and I'm growing, but I don't feel any more confident with my finances. Mm-hmm. Somehow I just keep spending more and more, and it just kind of matches.
That lifestyle creep.
And I never feel like I'm making any progress. So having an HSA through your employer, again,
and
it's
automating those
helps
deductions.
out. Yeah. And we could do a whole video on HSA because there's so much nuance to how they work and how to optimize them. But even now Amazon has a filter where you could go through and buy stuff, and you can just search for HSA eligible.
Yes.
So much stuff you can get with it. So well worth putting some money in there.
We can have a topic just on this alone.
Yes, I could talk all day on HSAs. Love the account. That's number 4 on our list. Where are we going? Number 5. What do you think?
Number 5 is going to be your ESPP, if it's available. Again, a lot of these, they're not always available. But if you do have an employee stock purchase plan, this is a great opportunity for just an easy layup for free money again.
Absolutely. We commonly see you'll get a 15% discount. It's pretty common. Mm-hmm. A lot of them now have that look back period. So if you have a 6-month offering period, they'll look at the start of the offering period, and then that end, you'll get a 15% discount on the lower price. And this really adds up. We routinely see people with massive discounts on their ESPP if the stock price is done well.
Yeah,
but I think one of the big things is it's being intentional, right? We oftentimes have people come in and they've accumulated stuff in their ESPP and ended up being disappointed because they feel like, the stock price hasn't done anything. And what ends up happening is they're purchasing ESPP shares, and then they just accumulate life, right?
Yes.
Life just goes on. We don't know really. We're not always making the best choices, and it just builds up in their E-Trade account, and they don't do anything.
Just taking ownership of this process. I think that's a big thing, is making sure that you are, like you said, intentional. Be very intentional with what is your plan? What are you trying to do? And it's also important that whenever you actually have that opportunity to sell those shares, usually whenever you buy them, as long as you're outside of that look back period, do so, because not every stock is destined to be the next Apple or Google.
Yeah, the data is very clear. Most people's company stock will not outperform just the broad market indexes over the long term. So generally, if you've got a 15% discount, we're usually telling people sell it right away and move on, diversify.
Take the gain.
Take that guaranteed return, which is amazing. When you look at a 6-month period, I can get at least a 15% return on this investment. You can't touch that anywhere. That's unbeatable. Take it and move on. So
100%.
And that's more free money. Again, if you've got access to it, absolutely do it.
Yep. So what's next on the list after ESPP?
Yeah, so I think we're going back now to maximizing your 401k. So you might have already got that free money, and then you can move on to these other unique accounts like an HSA, ESPP to get more free money. And now you're going back just to maximize that contribution. Make sure you're maxing out retirement accounts, thinking of kind of your future self, and just making sure that you're taking advantage of these tax-deferred accounts.
Yes. Yeah. And so usually if you're in a position to where you can contribute into that 401k, you're making good money. You're going to be in a higher tax bracket. And if you live in a state like California or New York, where you're in a high income tax state, then the benefits are even greater.
Yeah, absolutely.
So definitely take advantage of that. Max out your 401k and take those deductions.
Yep. Okay. And then once you've maxed that out, number 7, we looking into Roth strategies. If you're eligible based off of income, now it might make sense to be able to make a Roth IRA contribution, because a lot of people confuse this. They think, oh, I've got a 401k. I can't make a Roth contribution, which is not the case. A Roth, the only reason you can't is if your income's above the limit. So if it happens to be below the limit, I think a Roth is an amazing thing to do. And again, one of our absolute favorite accounts that you could use.
Yeah. The Roth IRA, in my opinion, that's my favorite account type. The problem is trying to find ways to put money into that Roth. That's the tricky part. Not so easy.
And if you're not eligible for a Roth, there are other strategies, right? We've talked about this. You could do certain backdoor Roths. You could go through your workplace 401k and you could do a mega backdoor Roth, and that's where you
if they offer it.
If they offer it, right? About a quarter of companies offer it right now, and that seems to be growing. But that's where you make those after-tax contributions and then convert it to a Roth. So it's another topic that you could have a 30-minute video on, just this one,
maybe an hour,
this one particular type of account, right? So, but that's where we would start looking at different Roth strategies for sure.
So after Roth, then we do the taxable accounts, and this is just your normal brokerage account. And there's no limits in terms of what you can actually contribute to that. Just depends upon your own cash flow and your goals. But opening up a brokerage account, whether that's an individual, joint, trust account, and just maxing that out.
Yeah, I actually think it's probably the most underappreciated account. I really love a plain brokerage account, as you said, individual, joint, trust account. I mean, I think the flexibility you get with it, because a lot of these other accounts outside of the ESPP are restricted in some way, right? Like when you can access the money, or how much you can contribute, or how much you can take out, and what age you have to be. This plain, boring taxable brokerage account is really efficient. It has some great potential just long-term. Yes, you might have some capital gains in it, but there also can be capital losses in it potentially, especially right now. So you have a lot of flexibility with what you want to do. And whether it be a career change, an early retirement, a just plain taxable brokerage account is a great investment vehicle.
Yep, exactly. So last but not least, and I'm sure a few of you are saying, hey, well, what about my mortgage? Shouldn't I be paying off my mortgage? We think this is last on your list, assuming that it's a very low cost of debt. So if you have a 3%, 3.5% mortgage, chances are this should be last up on the pecking order in our mind.
Yeah, I agree with you. And we've seen some recently, 2.5% rates, not the past couple months, but people that were able to refinance end of 2020, early 2021, great rates that they got. And I still think that's such a personal question, right? I think there's something a lot of people have on, I just want to be debt free. And if that's the choice, we think this is probably the place to do it.
It could make sense. I mean, there are situations whenever we create financial plans for our clients where it does make sense to say, hey, if you do pay off this debt aggressively over the next 10 years before you retire, then that actually does improve your retirement plan, because now your cost of expenses during retirement is that much less.
Yeah.
Whatever your debt, your mortgage payment is.
Yeah.
But of course, there's a lot of cost to that as well. What's the cost? Well, the cost is probably not being able to contribute to your normal brokerage account and having a larger nest egg to work with during retirement. So there's pros and cons to each strategy, but I think in general, this does tend to fall further down the list of sequence of savings.
If you're trying to optimize your money, I'm with you. Yeah, if you really want to make the most of each dollar you've saved and maximize kind of wealth building potential, if you've got a 2.5% or 3% mortgage, it's definitely the bottom of the list that I'm doing.
It's almost free money.
Yeah, it's really close to it.
Now, if we see those rates again anytime soon with the era of inflation, I'll be shocked.
We'll find out.
We'll see.
Yeah. And now, obviously, I mean, this is our list, right? And now there's a lot of other accounts somebody might have access to. Maybe they're thinking 529, I've got a kid. Maybe they've got a 457. Deferred compensation plans. There's lots of other nuance in these accounts, but these are kind of this core place where we feel like if you're getting through these, and of course, if you're getting to step 8 and 9, you are saving a tremendous amount of money.
Yes.
You're saving a lot.
Yes.
So if you're getting through these steps, wherever you are in terms of how much you can actually save, just work through this and think about just optimizing your money. And this is a great framework to work off of.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And if you find yourself that where your financial situation is getting more complex, or you just hate doing this kind of stuff, or if you're finding that the stakes are just getting really, really high, then you should consider working with a professional. We work at a firm called Bullock Capital. It's a fiduciary firm. We don't accept commissions. And if you're interested in learning more about us and what we do and the different financial planning strategies that we implement with our clients, go to our website, bullockcapital.com, to learn more. Or if you're just looking for more resources and if you want to learn to different strategies and different ways of kind of becoming more financially independent, go to our website, which is thewealthfix.com.
Great.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you. Appreciate it.